I'd like to introduce onto stage Dr. Arpit Bansal, known as the Aquaman biohacker. He integrates clinical medicine with blue mind neuroscience, HRV tracking, and nature based healing. Can I get a round of applause, please? Welcome.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. I am Dr. Arpit Bansal, and today I talk on a very interesting topic, and that is flow, and hardcore neuroscience into it, and what we can really do. So I don't find time; I flow through it, and that's what I've been living in the last 2 years. And I give you some beautiful insights on how we can practically implement it. So I'm a cancer surgeon, and in my world, seconds literally decides the outcome. But in the world we are living in, the thing which I fear the most or is most dangerous is not disease or not even cancer. It's the world we live in where we think we have mastered machines, but we have lost the mastery of the mind. And from surgical suits, so I'm also a scuba diver, precision, patience, adaptability. These three things, three words have been my life. And three words, one lesson, and that is flow. So you can call them like different environments, same nervous system, and flow is the common bridge. System, the red mind, and the parasympathetic nervous system, the blue mind, because it is logically easier for our minds to grasp those color-based terms, stress, speed, distraction. So we live in a world where we're constantly running up, and our nervous systems are permanently switched on, but never really tuned in. And here's of course, the paradox. Productivity is rising, but clarity is collapsing. And that's where we need to understand what is flow. It is a state of mental deep focus, a full immersion where literally time dissolves and time passes strangely around us. The effort feels so basically, if you want to take four words, awareness, extreme awareness, timelessness, they merge. And ultimately you become effortless student. And there is no control which is required from your side. And Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi was the first person who introduced the word flow, and it used to be a slang, and we all have used some the other day the word flow. But he described as a neuroscientific, the flow he described as the total absorption in the moment what you're doing, and loss of complete self-control, and ultimately timelessness. And it happens when the challenge skill balance are met completely. It doesn't happen when you're doing something which you are very tough, or which you are doing when something which is easy. So the best moments in life, as he said, aren't those which are passive, receptive, and relaxing times. And this is the same state which surgeons, athletes, artists, and even monks describe. And that's because that's entraining your alpha wave or the flow state. It's a frequency. And the problem with today is we've replaced rhythm with urgency, we've replaced depth with dopamine, and we've replaced presence with performance. And our brain has literally paid the price. So I would say flow is not equal to hustle. You don't have to hustle too much to get into flow. Flow, effortless control is obviously not laziness. So this is how we dive into it. And people even Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi is a famous psychologist, and so many people before me have described just a one way to enter flow state. Today here I propose a novel idea which is being published also, that flow has two entry gates. Number one, the classical neuroscience explains flow as deep focus. I will get into the cycle a bit, but flow is basically deep focus into the now, into what you are doing. And this state most people know as narrow attention. Attention is the main thing. You have to focus on the now, what you're doing. The skill challenge balance is important. It has not to be very hard, not to be very easy. Loss of self-consciousness and time distortion. And this pathway looks best when you're learning on mastering new things. But something interesting happens at mastery. If you have mastered surgery, if you have mastered running, if you have mastered playing a piano, if you have mastered scuba diving, if you have mastered surfing, which is a great activities to go into flow, elite performance like surgeons, they often report thinking less and not more. And something even observing themselves from the outside. So this raises a deeper question. Is intense focus the only way to enter flow? It's obviously one of the traditional ways, intense focus into the now? Or is there another gate that opens when the skills are already embodied? So manifestation, embodiment, I know people must be about. So today I present to you the observer gate. The observer gate, I say, is the second gate which you can get into flow. Instead of narrowing attention, it works by quieting the observer. In this state, action, like for me, I've been running, and many days it's genuinely effortless. I don't see myself running. When I'm running, I see my physical body running, and I see myself practicing the observer effect in while I'm running. Like I'm running, obviously, my physical body is genuinely running, but I'm seeing myself running outside. So the narrative self goes silent, action runs automatically, and performance feels effortless. Time stretches or disappears. Sometimes even hours pass, sometimes even minutes must have passed, but time seems to. So we stop living in the linear time which the world has taught us that time is. That's the linear construct of time. So you're not trying to flow, you are interfering. And this mirrors which what I was mentioning about the quantum observer effect, which is again real, and it has been proven, and people have got Nobel Prizes on proving this thing on an atom. So this is how when you deeply mirror the quantum observer effect with your own body doing things. So I'm doing this right now while I'm speaking on stage. One part of me is observing me speaking on the stage. I do it while performing surgery. I'll do it while running. I'll do it while traveling on the flight. So just that constant sense of activation, it makes you be in more flow more often. So in flow state 2.0, I would say, less control equals to more coherence. Because actually the life we live in, we've been entrained that you have to control every aspect of your life. But actually, less control gives you more coherence. Less thinking gives you a better performance. Less identity will give you much more sustained flow. The problem when we become successful, we start creating and feeding that ego or the self. So instead, less identities. Flow is no longer something you can enter. It is something that emerges when the observer steps aside, as I already mentioned. And this is not dissociation. This is mastery in motion. And at mastery, flow is not assessed, as I already told, through effort. It is assessed through frequency. Nikki, Stephen was speaking before. So flow, we have to understand, it's also frequency, which is the normal frequencies. That's the normal operating system of our body. It's not a luxury we need to tap into. Everybody should ideally peak performers, or everybody in terms of brain peak performing, we should be targeting flow. So why are we discussing flow? Why does flow matter? It helps you focus. It is the main thing which brings your creativity outside. And today at a longevity conference, it is directly connected to longevity also, because flow isn't just performance. It is protection for your nervous system too. So, and I already mentioned flow is when brain stops measuring time. Time doesn't disappear, but your brain stops counting it. So that's, and brain in flow, your prefrontal cortex quietens, and there is transient hypofrontality. These are not new things. These are just old things which I'm refreshing for people who haven't dived deeply into flow. Plus, there's a network shift. There are two networks in our brain. One is the default mode network, and one is the task-based network. And the moment we get up in the morning, most people, they start their task-based network. And that is where the world starts living in the red mind. As the moment we wake up in the morning, first of all, we wake up through alarm clocks, and then we have a to-do list. For people who procrastinate, the list is still there. We don't do, that's a different thing. But you still are living in that task-based network. You're just thinking about what to do, when to do. I have to drop him, I have to make tiffin, or etc., etc. Everybody is living their own lives inside their minds truly. But we need to connect to that default mode network. And that is the network where universal coherence, where the unified field, universe, God, Akashic field, whichever you believe in, you go tap into that natural flow, what the universe wants to express through me. We all have heard the saying that I'm just not a body, I'm the universe, we are all connected. But this is how it becomes practical, that when we start tapping into it. So in brain in flow, self self-sabotage disappears and pattern recognition explodes. When I keep saying that we are all living in our brains, in everybody's, so our human brain is a brilliant pattern recognition system. Everything we have experienced now, we try and recognize a pattern which we have. For example, I'm 39 years old. So all 38 years of my life, whatever I've seen, experienced as patients, as trauma, as traffic, as how people will respond to these things, as frequencies exchanging between people, their brain stores all of that. And it's a pattern recognition system. And if you can recognize pattern, everything is about connecting the dots. And let's dive into the neurochemistry of flow. So flow is not just a slang, it's a neurochemical form. There are 6 neurochemical, which like a cocktail which happens in our brain naturally. So the first chemical is dopamine, our motivation chemical. Second is oxytocin, our connection chemical. Then is serotonin, or obviously our happiness hormone. Then is our endorphins, our natural painkillers. Then is norepinephrine, our chemical adrenaline, which makes us do things. And the 6th is this magical chemical called anandamide. The chemical is itself named after bliss. And these 6 athletes, runners described as a runner's high. I'm sure people have heard about it, runner's high. So what is really happening is you can train your brain to enter and simultaneously release these 6, not with external supplements, just by training your system down. So, and neuroplasticity is a very neurospicy word. We have been hearing about it. So it's basically learning something new. And when you skill and challenge is met, your growth is always on the edge. And basically your flow is your brain's upgrade system, your natural way how you can upgrade your brain. And what are the flow triggers which most people know about? But novelty, think new ideas. Don't just blindly copy people. Let your mind flow into what it wants to create. You heard so many brilliant talks today, and if you let your mind incorporate what is required for you, see, biohacking is good. I'm a biohacker, but not one thing can be perfect for everybody. We are all different frequency beings. We are all different signature beings. So something might be good for somebody. So you need to flow, let the flow guide you to your answers, what you need at the moment. Immediate feedback, any activity which gives you an immediate feedback is a flow trigger activity. You know what you're doing. Challenge, skill, balance, I already mentioned. For example, if I run, I'm a runner. If I go and do something today, like a very normal run, I may not get into flow. And for here, I'll explain more about the challenge, skill, balance when I'm talking about the stages of flow. And as everything in life, flow is also cyclical. So flow triggers are also clear goals. You should obviously have clear goals. Presence, we already talked about, and safety. Flow really requires perceived safety and not real safety. So what you perceive in your brain. What are flow breakers? Chronic stress, multitasking, sleep debt, and digital overstimulation, of course, and fear-based motivation. There is something called as microflow and macroflow. Microflow are micro moments of flow which we all experience some or the other times in the day, just 5 to 10 or 15 minutes of deep presence. It happens during breath work, it happens during connection with nature, during walks, during journaling, during ice baths, whatever resonates with you. And it builds attentional control and neurochemical priming. So you don't need to climb mountains. You need to understand your own moments of microflow and give them more energy, because small states ultimately leads to big results. So when you keep on practicing microflow, you understand what moments of macroflow, how you can enter more macroflow. And so macroflow is not assessed, it is earned through microflow. The more you practice microflow, the more you will get into macro moments or those blocks of flow. Andrew Huberman also describes when you are more in coherent with your system, your circadian biology is sync, then there are some blocks of focus attention spans every morning and every afternoon also for everyone. That may differ for everybody. For example, for me it is between 2 and 4 p.m. in the afternoon. For somebody else, it may be different, but you need to understand your peak performance stages by tuning into your nervous system better. So macro flow is sustained, high risk, high skill flow built on micro flow capacity. Surgeons, sports, athletes, even deep work, writers who are into writing. And this is what the world applauds. People look up to these persons because they have just cracked their own macro states, macro flow states. And obviously, when we are talking about flow, we are talking about different kinds of activities. There are failures for everybody. It's part of normal life. I have so much fear. But when you keep remembering flow, flow metabolizes failures. You don't feel failure as a failure. And one thing I need to stress is this creativity. Use your creativity. Somebody has a creativity in art. Somebody has creativity in music. Somebody has creativity, like, for example, I'm a bird watcher also. I'm into bird photography. And that is also creative. Just looking, observing nature. That can also become a creative thing for you. So use creativity as your flow trigger. It's an insight into deeper focus and deeper immersion, which your body or your immune system is naturally tuned into. And be a lifelong learner always, because curiosity is your truest youth serum. And it is, if you keep learning, be it Duolingo, I do like 5 to 10 minutes of Spanish learning every day. Anything. There should not be one day which should be passed, which you don't learn anything new. Not just mastery of your own topics, which you are already master of. That comes under deep work. You need to keep working on that. But something new. And here we talk about now the flow cycle. Everything in life, flow is also cyclical. And here is how all our biohacking events is directly connected to being in more flow. So I would say struggle prepares, release clears, and flow obviously emerges, and recovery is where it locks everything in. And that's recovery is the phase where all our biohacking, where the mitochondrial test, me screen, which I just took, which comes into play. And all the other biohacks which you want to do is focused on recovery, because if you miss, most people struggle in recovery. And that's why they lack a proper sleep, they lack proper cellular hydration, they lack proper gut health. So that's where the whole 360 approach toward longevity connect to more flow. And so skip recovery and you block the next flow. So you can entrain your nervous system to struggle. For example, here I would give you an example of me as a surgeon. I'm a cancer surgeon, also into endometriosis and different kinds of difficult pelvic floor surgeries. And simultaneously, we'll take a example of a surfer and also a person playing a piano on stage. So what is the struggle phase? For me as a surgeon, obviously it's struggling through the medical years and learning. For the surfer, he needs to develop his skill. For the pianist, he needs to struggle and understand the mechanics, how a piano plays. So that's the struggle phase. And then also for a runner, it's basic activity planning. And then what's this release phase? So in me as a surgeon, there are some complex surgeries in pelvic. And there are moments where, obviously I've done these things thousands of times, but there are moments where I'm not very clear how to proceed, what's the next step should be. Or I should approach from the left side or the right side. Everything is stuck in the pelvis. For a surfer, suddenly he sees a wave which he has never ever ridden before. It's like one of the biggest waves. He doesn't know how he'll negotiate it. So that is the moment of release. You let go. I just let my thoughts flow and the surgical direction automatically emerges. And the surfer just climbs onto the surfboard and he releases. Automatically his nervous system and his body peak perform, and he ultimately enters into flow state, the third state. And so now once you try and do it with an observer effect perspective on the side, you can understand that now I am in flow. For example, for this talk, I can say that now I am in flow in this talk. So then you can be conscious about it and turn those micro flow moments into macro flow moments, and then be whatever you want to co-create in this beautiful life. But the important thing is recovery. As in everything, if you don't have a good night's sleep, if you don't let your 6 neurochemicals which has blasted in your brain with peak performance. So in flow, it has been proven your performance goes up to 500% in terms of athletic capacity, in terms of cognitive capacity, in terms of all kinds of activity. The performance reaches 500%. So it might seem like new to you, but it is real, and many people are training it, and it is. So we need to again remember, and I hope you have taken the photo of the micro flow. Start with your micro flow activities. Everyone sitting here has their own micro flow activity, and I would be happy to share the PPT also, because I am a very open and a collaborative person. So again, reminding flow triggers, you have to focus on your novelty. The challenge skill balance has to be met. So what does this mean if people who aren't clear? A run has to be slightly challenging. It cannot be a very easy run, or it cannot be like I decide I want to run a marathon. I can run it because I've trained my body. I can impromptu run a half marathon, but whoever hasn't trained, it's like a challenge which is too difficult. So he or she will not enter into flow. But if it's like I just impromptu right now want to run a 11 kilometer, then that will be like the optimal challenge balance. And then I will, as soon as I start the run, I let go, I will enter flow state. This is very important, because when minds and hearts like us, like I've been to, by God's grace, almost 15, 20 of such conferences across the world in the last 2 years, speaking at various conferences. Usually I talk about my 5 body biohacking blueprint, which is my standard keynote talk, which I've given at other places, because biohacking, people feel it's a fancy word only for athletes, but I believe, first of all, I believe biohacking word should be cut off and made into bioharmonizing or biosync, because I believe true health span isn't hacked, it is harmonized. So, but still, because it's a fancy word and it's a trendy word, I suggest that we have been nurtured since our child that we are just one body, take care of it. So I say that we have 5 different bodies, not from a spiritual angle, but from a science-backed angle. So in that other main is, I represent that one is our physical body, because once we die, we go back to our earth, Mother Earth, and that's our physical body. Then our second body is our air or our mental body. We talk about brain hacking and neuroplasticity, because ultimately we have to biohack our air body. And then there is a third, or the water or the emotional body, because water and emotions, they flow inside of us and outside of us. And of course, the fire and the spiritual body. But in that, I present like a science-backed 5 biohacks per body, where you, and like in that, the 20th number is flow state, where I'm deep diving into today. And when these earth, air, water, fire, they merge together. And here we come to the blue mind and the red mind. So the current world which we're living in is most of us are stuck in the wrong frequency, wrong mind, survival frequency. From the moments we wake up, there is lack, that I want to bring this, I want to bring that. There is lack of abundance. So once you start living in flow, you understand that it's a frequency. It's an abundance frequency. And you can be relaxed with your blue mind or the parasympathetic mind, and just keep your life in balance. And what is really coherence? Coherence, we all know that we are frequency beings. Our heart and brain emit some powerful frequencies. And when your heart and brain are in sync with the same frequency, your HRV, your heart rate variability increases, and you are in coherence. And water, being the Aquaman biohacker, I believe and I see as the fastest doorway into coherence. This is my 5 body biohacking blueprint, which I was mentioning about. I can send people who are interested, can connect me. I'm on social media everywhere. I would be happy to connect anybody who's interested. So ultimately, quantum flow is not magic. It is coherence across all these 5 bodies, across all the systems. And the more you entrain them, so what can you do to prime your brain? Make a morning ritual. You have heard thousands of times. Morning rituals around your personal micro flow activities. And then that will, it can be different for me, it can be different for you. So I'm not naming, I'm just giving you your dose or dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, which release inside you. Maybe it can be journaling, it can be listening to music, it can be doing your breath work. So movement, sunlight, and gratitude has to be a part of that. And then you can choose whatever side activity. So prime your brain. Then these are some practical tips. Obviously, meditation. NSDR is a beautiful tool for who haven't tried non-sleep deep rest. Just 20 minutes of this session can give you 1 hour equivalence of loss of sleep for people who are struggling with sleep. Ice baths, breath work, and HRV tracking. So these are some interesting ways which you can tune and understand your body's awareness. The secret of longevity, I quote in the end, is not in the number of hours. It's in more flow. Let's live together inside the flow state where time literally expands. Optimize, flow, and thrive. And you may have heard something new today. So in the end, I would not want to leave you with a lot of information. I would want you to leave with integration and not with information, because true flow isn't understood, it is felt. So I've devised a song called Quantum Mirror. I'm also making a conscious, quantumly elevated community tribe across the world. I will be playing just that song. You are happy to close your eyes and flow with me. Just pay attention to the lyrics. And when coherence returns, time doesn't just pass against you, time starts flowing with you.